The Secrets of Ecclesiastes for Fearless Prosperity, inspired by Napoleon Hill. I am going to start with a statement that might sound completely absurd. Poverty, in most cases, is not a matter of fate but an unconscious decision. Yes, you heard me correctly. It's not about the economy, a crisis, or bad luck. It is the programming of your own mind. Now, you will probably say to me, "But Napoleon, how could I have chosen scarcity if I never wanted to live like this?" And my reply is this: you did not make a conscious choice, but your mind has been conditioned from a young age to believe in falsehoods about money, life, and even about God. There is a time for everything, and a season for every purpose under heaven. I repeat this because it is a key that very few people truly grasp. It's not an invitation to passively wait, it's an instruction to synchronize your mind with the rhythms of life. I learned this while traveling and conducting interviews, observing men and women who built empires and also those who became lost because they did not understand the right time to plant and to harvest. What separates those who thrive from those who live on a merry-go-round of starting over isn't just luck, it is the mental preparation to recognize and seize opportunities when they arrive. Have you ever paused to listen to what your mind tells you every day? That little voice that says, "I am not capable, this is for better people," or "money just causes problems"? Your subconscious mind works 24 hours a day, filtering signals and confirming beliefs. When that programming is steeped in scarcity, everything conspires to prove that scarcity is true, and the reverse is also true. Therefore, the first practical step is to take responsibility for this internal software. You can deliberately update your thought patterns. I'm going to be practical, as I have always been. Imagine your mind as a patch of land. If you want to harvest tomatoes, it's no use complaining that the land produces nothing while you plant cassava and ignore irrigation. A wise farmer studies the seasons, prepares the soil, chooses the seeds, and plants at the right time. In the real world, this translates into concrete actions that anyone can begin to apply today, with no magic required. First exercise, daily mental cleansing, for 7 days. Every morning, spend 10 minutes in silence identifying the first limiting belief that comes up when you think about money. Write it down. Then write a practical affirmation, for example, "I deserve to be fairly compensated for the value I provide." Repeat this affirmation with conviction for 3 minutes. Does it seem simple? That is precisely where the power lies. Repetition builds new neural habits. Neuroplasticity is not just a fancy word, it is a real mechanism. Repeated thoughts create pathways in the brain and alter behavior. Second exercise, informational diet. Stop consuming news and conversations that drain your confidence in the hours leading up to your sleep or your work. Trade 30 minutes of complaining for 30 minutes of practical learning, a podcast about finance, an article on basic management, a free online class. Small adjustments to your mental input will transform the quality of your actions output. Third exercise, seasonal planning. Divide your next 6 months into clearly defined phases, a preparation phase, studying, saving with a purpose, networking, an execution phase, launching a product, opening a small business, applying for better jobs, and an adjustment phase, correcting processes, reinvesting profits. For the person with a fixed-hour job who dreams of having their own business, this could mean 3 months of studying and saving 10% of their salary for initial capital, 2 months of testing a product on nights and weekends, 1 month of a staggered launch. It is not an instant guarantee, but it is about synchronizing action with the right time, planting with intention, cultivating with persistence, and harvesting with strategy. And what about fear? It will show up. What if I fail? What if I lose the little that I have? These questions are valid, but consider this: most of our worst-case scenarios never actually happen. What does happen is that fear paralyzes us, and paralysis is what ensures the worst possible outcome. So, transform fear into an ally, write down the most plausible worst consequence and plan a response to it. If the worst consequence is to lose an amount of money equal to about $100, what is your plan to minimize that loss? Having a plan reduces panic and increases the courage to act at the right time. Allow me to tell you a true story from my life that illustrates this and that you might recognize as your own reflection. I was a young man, spending my few nights seeking stories, when a man told me he wanted me to study success, full stop. He tasked me with discovering the habits and principles of those who had achieved great results. That mission did not come with perfect financial conditions, it came with a deadline, an expectation, and a monumental responsibility. I could have said, I'm going to wait until I study more, save more money, or find a partner. Instead, I chose to prepare my mind and act immediately. I eliminated mental distractions, wrote down clear objectives, organized interviews, and gathered a small network of collaborators, and only then, at the right time, did I go to reap the results that paved the way for my work. What I want you to feel right now is not pity for my struggle, but courage. I did not have all the external conditions at the beginning, but I decided to prepare my mind as if the right time had already arrived, and that made the right time appear. Feel the courage I felt that day, let it guide you. If you want to apply this practically tomorrow, here is a routine that works for most people. Stop for the first 30 minutes in the morning, or at night, if that is your time, for 3 actions. 1. A short and focused reading, 10 minutes. 2. Writing down your specific goal for the day, 5 minutes. 3. A tangible action, even a small one, that brings you closer to the goal, 15 minutes. Do this for 21 days. This cycle creates the discipline that prepares your mind to recognize and seize opportunities when they come. You might be thinking, this is boring, Professor Hill, I want quick results. I know. But the illusion of a shortcut is what keeps people planting and waiting for rains that will not come. The wisdom that Solomon revives in Ecclesiastes does not promise shortcuts, it promises synchronization, knowing when to prepare, when to plant, when to water, and when to harvest. And that synchronization begins within you, in your daily attention to what you think, read, and do. Finally, an immediate challenge. Today, before you go to sleep, write down a clear financial goal and a 3-step plan for the next month. Tomorrow morning, execute the first step. Repeating this daily for 7 days is preparing your mind for the right time, and when the moment to act arrives, you will no longer be unprepared, you will be ready to harvest. The biggest enemy of prosperity is not a lack of opportunities, nor the injustice of the system, nor even a scarcity of resources. The biggest enemy is invisible, it is called fear. Fear is the most skilled thief in human history. It does not enter your house through a window, it settles in your heart. It does not steal your money directly, it first steals your initiative, your courage, your vision of the future. And when that happens, the money either never arrives or it slips through your fingers like fine sand. How many times have you put off making an important decision because you thought, what if I fail? What if I lose everything? What if they laugh at me? These questions are common, but have you ever stopped to consider how, in most cases, they never come to pass? Modern studies in economic psychology show that more than 85% of people's financial worries never become reality. And yet, billions of people spend their lives reacting to fear as if it were an unavoidable fact. I myself, throughout my journey, have seen men of extraordinary talent succumb to this silent enemy. I once interviewed a brilliant young man, a creative engineer, who had developed a solution to drastically reduce production costs in factories. His project could have transformed entire industries. But the fear of being rejected made him keep the idea in a drawer for years. When he finally mustered the courage, others had already developed something similar, and he ended up limited to being a poorly paid employee of companies that used the very technology he could have patented. Can you imagine the pain of seeing the world use an idea that could have been yours, but which fear did not allow to flourish? On the other hand, look at examples of men who overcame fear with faith. George Muller, a 19th century German Christian, did not allow the fear of a lack of money to paralyze him. He cared for more than 10,000 orphans throughout his life without ever asking anyone directly for resources. How did he do it? He applied spiritual principles, trusted in a clear vision, and, above all, refused to be enslaved by the fear of scarcity. To this day, his work stands as proof that faith in action is more powerful than any insecurity. But allow me to be honest with you, I, too, faced fear. When I began writing Think and Grow Rich, many people told me my ideas would be ridiculed, that no one would believe that the mind could create wealth. I sat at my desk, with a pile of notes from interviews I had done with men like Carnegie, Edison, and Ford, and I heard a voice inside me: what if you were wasting your life? What if no one takes this seriously? That night was long. But instead of letting it paralyze me, I made a choice to turn fear into fuel. I wrote even more, with even more conviction. The result? A book that traveled the world, helped millions, and remains alive to this day. And this is what I want you to understand: fear will never disappear. It will appear every time you think about taking a step beyond your comfort zone. The difference is how you react to it. Are you going to let it paralyze your life, or are you going to use it as a sign that you are on the right path? Now I ask you a direct question: how many times have you failed to invest in yourself because fear said, it's not the right time? How many opportunities have you seen pass you by because you were worried about what others would say? If you recognize this, know that you are not alone. Most people live this way. But you do not have to continue living this way. Do this exercise with me. Today, on a sheet of paper, write down the biggest financial fear you carry. Then, below it, write down 3 simple actions you can take to face it head on. It does not have to be anything grand. It could be learning something new, talking to a trusted person, or even opening a small savings account aimed at a specific goal. The simple act of confronting fear in writing begins to bring it out of the darkness and weakens the power it has over you. And remember, life does not reward those who run from fear, but those who face it with clarity, faith, and action. Fear wants to be the master of your life, but you can turn it into your servant. Wanting is not enough. You can spend your entire life saying, I want to be rich, I want to be happy, I want a better life, and remain in the same place. Because desire, without direction, is like a wind on the open sea. It blows in all directions, but it leads nowhere. What really opens doors is having a definite purpose. And that is what most people never have the courage to face head on. Ecclesiastes reminds us that there is a time to plant and a time to harvest. But only those who plant with a clear intention will harvest. Think with me, how many people do you know who say, I want to change my life, but never stop to write down exactly what that life should be like, when it will happen, and why? The truth is that a large part of the population is living on autopilot, with vague goals, no plan, and no purpose. And the consequence of this is simple: if you do not define your destination, any path will do. Current research shows something impressive. People who write down their goals are 42% more likely to achieve them than those who only keep their desires in their minds. This is not magic, it is science. When you write down a goal with clarity, your subconscious mind begins to work in its favor, filtering information, connecting opportunities, and creating focused energy. But let me show you a powerful contrast. Consider the case of Vincent van Gogh, a genius artist who created works that are now worth millions of dollars. But during his lifetime, he did not have a definite purpose regarding money. He did not know how to organize his gifts to generate prosperity. He lived in torment, died poor, and was forgotten. The talent was there, but without direction, his destiny was lost. Compare this with men who were not necessarily more talented, but who knew exactly what they wanted. Like Henry Ford, he did not just desire to manufacture cars, he had a definite purpose: to put a car within reach of the middle class. And the whole world changed because he knew what he wanted. Now allow me to open my heart. There was a time when I myself had to face this difference between desiring and having a purpose. For years, I desired to be successful as a writer. It was an empty desire. Nothing happened. But everything changed when I defined my greater purpose: to organize and disseminate the philosophy of success in a language that anyone could understand and apply. On that day, something inside me ignited. It was no longer a vague dream. It was a plan. I knew what, when, and how. And that attracted the interviews, the collaborators, and even the critics who, without realizing it, pushed me even further. And I want you to reflect with me now. Do you have a desire or a purpose? Have you caught yourself daydreaming, imagining a different life, but never putting it on paper? Well, here is my challenge. Today, before you go to sleep, write 3 things on a sheet of paper. First, what you want to achieve specifically. Second, in what amount of time. Third, why this is important to you. Just 3 sentences. Do this for 7 consecutive nights. I guarantee that your mind will begin to see paths that were previously invisible. A definite purpose is like a lighthouse. It does not remove the storms from the sea, but it shows you where to row even in the midst of them. Without this lighthouse, you can have talent, energy, even money, but you will continue to go around in circles. With it, every decision gains clarity, every obstacle becomes a step, and every fear becomes smaller than your vision. So, I ask you, are you willing to turn your desires into a purpose? Or will you continue to live like so many who desire, and never achieve? The choice is yours. Have you noticed how many people live as if there is always a tomorrow to start? Tomorrow they will study, tomorrow they will save, tomorrow they will act. But Ecclesiastes warns us, there is a time to complain and a time to act, a time to prepare and a time to execute. The problem is that most people get used to living perpetually in the time of complaining, postponing real life. I tell you this, the time for transformation is never tomorrow. It is now. It always has been now. Every time you procrastinate, you strengthen the mental pattern that keeps you trapped in scarcity. How many times have you repeated phrases like, when I have more money I'll start, when things get better I'll change, or when the crisis passes I'll invest in myself? The truth is, if you do not act with what you have today, the perfect time will never arrive. I am going to tell you something that happened to me, which I carry as one of the hardest and most valuable lessons of my life. There was a period when I was exhausted, with so many notes and interviews piled up, that I seriously considered stopping writing. I told myself, maybe it is not the right time, maybe I need to wait for better conditions. That night, I challenged myself, just write 1 page, just today. I wrote. The next day, another page. That simple choice became the seed of one of the most important chapters of all my work. Do you know what I learned? The time for action never arrives wrapped in perfection. It arrives disguised as small decisions you can make now. And here is my challenge to you. For the next 7 days, every morning, write on a piece of paper 1 simple, objective action that brings you closer to your purpose. Just 1. By the end of the week, you will have taken 7 real steps. Maybe small, but real. And when you look back, you will realize that you moved from inertia into motion. Ask yourself, which time are you choosing to live in today? The time to complain or the time to act? The time to prepare or the time to execute? Because life does not wait. That project sitting in a drawer, that idea you have carried for years, that dream that insists on knocking at your door, they are all begging you to recognize that the time is now. And if you still have doubts, remember this, there will always be problems, crises, and obstacles. But those who learn to act in the midst of the storm will harvest when the sun shines again. Those who wait for perfect calm will never set sail. The big question is, will you continue waiting for the perfect tide, or will you cast your net now, even if the wind seems contrary? Because the opportunity for your transformation may be emerging at this very moment. If there is one point you should hold in your heart, it is this: there is no financial curse, there is no inevitable destiny of scarcity. What exists is the decision to align your mind with the right seasons of life. When you understand that there is a time to plant, a time to harvest, a time to prepare, and a time to act, you begin to live consciously, without fear, with clarity and purpose. And if this understanding has opened your eyes today, imagine what will happen when you climb 1 more step in the next video that is appearing on the screen. There you will further deepen your wisdom, becoming at least 1% better than you are now. And that 1% accumulated, day after day, is what transforms entire destinies. I thank you for being here with me. If this content made a difference for you, consider supporting the channel and becoming a part of our exclusive community, where you will have priority access to new videos and can walk side by side with me on this journey of evolution. I await you in the next video. Click now, climb 1 more step, and continue with me on the path of wisdom and prosperity.